Imagine waking up one morning, stepping outside, and noticing something in the sky that shouldn't be there. A second moon. Except it isn't a moon. It is a planet. And it is heading straight for us. This is not a drill. 30 days. That is all we have left. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when the universe was still playing by the rules. Uranus has always been the quiet outsider of our solar system. Sitting nearly 3 billion kilometers away from Earth, it spends its existence spinning silently on its side, like a planet that long ago gave up trying to fit in. For billions of years, nothing about that changed. It was distant, it was cold, it was predictable. And then, one day it wasn't. Without warning, without explanation, Uranus broke free from its orbit. Not slowly. Not in the gradual, graceful way that planets shift over millennia, but suddenly, violently, as if something had reached out from the darkness and hurled it directly at us. Astronomers who first detected the movement assumed they had at least 13 years to figure out a plan. 13 years to mount a response, coordinate evacuations, maybe even find a way to survive. They were wrong. Uranus wasn't drifting. It was charging, accelerating to nearly 1,000 kilometers per second. That is so fast that the distance between planets, which normally takes spacecraft years to cross, would be swallowed up in weeks. 13 years became 30 days. And just like that, humanity's window for survival slammed shut. In those first few days, the sky began to change. A faint blue light appeared where no light had been before. Then it grew. Every morning you stepped outside, it was bigger, brighter, more beautiful than anything you'd ever seen. If you didn't know what it meant, you might have stood there in your front yard and just stared, breathless. But you would know. Everyone would know. And yet, and this is the strange part, there would be a terrible beauty to it. The sky at night would look like something out of a painting, not just because of the glowing blue giants slowly filling the horizon, but because of the shooting stars, hundreds of them, thousands streaking across the atmosphere in brilliant flashes of light. Only, they wouldn't be stars. To reach us, Uranus would have to bulldoze its way through the asteroid belt, sitting between Jupiter and Mars. That belt is home to millions of rocks, some the size of mountains, some the size of cities. As Uranus plowed through, it would scatter them like marbles, sending them cascading outward in every direction. Many of them would come straight for Earth. Some of these asteroids would measure up to 240 kilometers across. For context, the rock that ended the dinosaurs was roughly 10 to 15 kilometers wide. What would be hitting us would be many times larger, and there would be no deflection mission, no last-minute rocket launch, no heroic intervention. There would just be the sky, and the light, and the waiting. By the time Uranus appeared as large as our moon in the sky, the Earth would already be tearing itself apart. Here is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Gravity isn't just what keeps your feet on the ground. It is a force that reaches across space and squeezes, pulls, and distorts everything it touches. Uranus is 15 times more massive than Earth. As it closed in, its gravitational field would wrap around our planet like a vice. The ground would begin to shake, not in the isolated, localized way we experience earthquakes today, but everywhere, all at once. Fault lines that had been locked in silence for centuries would rupture simultaneously. Volcanoes that had been dormant for thousands of years would explode back to life, hurling ash and fire into an already darkening sky. The oceans would surge. Tides that normally rise a meter would begin rising by dozens, then hundreds of meters, as Uranus pulled Earth's water toward it like a magnet. And then there is the smell. If somehow you were still standing outside through all of this, through the earthquakes and the volcanic ash and the meteor showers, the atmosphere itself would begin to betray you. Uranus is cloaked in hydrogen sulfide. That is the chemical compound responsible for the smell of rotten eggs. Now imagine not one egg, not one carton, but an entire planet's worth of that gas pouring into Earth's atmosphere. You wouldn't smell it for long. One breath would be enough to knock you unconscious, but Uranus wouldn't arrive alone. This is the detail that makes everything so much worse. Uranus has 27 known moons, some small, some substantial, and every single one of them would be dragged along for the ride. As the ice giant closed in on Earth, those moons would begin striking us from multiple directions, like a cosmic barrage with no pattern and no mercy. There would be no safe side of the planet to hide on. By the final hours, Uranus would dominate the entire sky. Not a sliver of it, all of it. You wouldn't be able to look up without seeing that deep churning blue. The gravitational compression would be so extreme that what remained of our atmosphere would be squeezed and superheated to the point of ignition. The air itself would catch fire. And in those last moments, Earth as we know it, with its oceans, its forests, its cities, its 7 billion years of geological history, would be gone. Not destroyed outright, but captured, absorbed, pulled into orbit around Uranus, destined to become just another moon in a collection of 28. But here is the twist that nobody saw coming. Uranus wouldn't walk away from this unscathed either. Scientists believe that billions of years ago, a planetary object roughly twice the size of Earth slammed into Uranus and knocked it sideways. That is why it spins the way it does, tilted almost completely on its side, rolling around the sun like a bowling ball instead of spinning like a top. The collision with Earth, our planet's final act, could actually push Uranus back toward vertical. After billions of years of spinning sideways, the impact of absorbing us might be exactly enough to correct its tilt. Earth's last contribution to the universe would be fixing the planet that destroyed it. And if, somehow, against all odds, something survived, some microscopic thread of biology clinging to the wreckage of what used to be our world, it would open its eyes to a very different sky. Uranus would hang on the horizon, enormous and electric blue, the way Jupiter looks from the surface of its moons. It would be, in its own haunting way, breathtaking. Life would be starting over, on a dead world orbiting the planet that killed it. But that is a story for another time.